You are lying in bed. The air conditioner hums softly. The room is just cool enough. The pillow fits snugly around your neck as if it were measured specifically for you, because in a way, it was. You close your eyes. In less than 3 minutes, you are already drifting into sleep. You do not have to try at all. Now erase all of that. There is no air conditioner. There is no fan. There is no contoured pillow. There is no thermometer, no sleep tracking app, no melatonin, and no mosquito net. You lie down on the ground. The earth is still scorching hot from the day. The air around you is thick and humid, like breathing through a wet cloth, and hundreds of insects are making plans to find you. This is not a survival experiment. This was every night for your ancestors, for hundreds of thousands of years. So, how did they sleep? What did they do when it was too hot to sleep, and there was absolutely nothing to cool them down? The answer will make you look at your air conditioner in a completely different way. Let's start with something you are carrying on your body without even noticing it: your skin. More specifically, the 2 to 4 million eccrine sweat glands embedded deep within it. Humans have more sweat glands than any other primate on Earth. More than chimpanzees, more than orangutans, more than all the others. And that is not an accident. Most mammals cool their bodies by panting. It works, but it is slow. Your ancestors took a different path. Around 2 to 3 million years ago, as they left the dense forests and moved out onto the open grasslands of Africa, evolution made a bold trade. It took away their thick body hair, and in return, it gave them sweat. In 2018, researcher Andrew Best at the University of Massachusetts Amherst analyzed the evolution of eccrine glands across primates and concluded that humans developed a significantly higher density of sweat glands, reaching up to 550 glands per square centimeter on the palms alone, as a direct response to moving into hot, open environments. Your ancestors did not merely endure the heat, they became the most thermally efficient large mammals on the planet. But here is what few people tell you. Losing body hair was not only useful during the day, it was a sleep technology. Fur traps heat against the skin. Without it, your body becomes a radiator. Heat escapes from your bare skin into the surrounding air, especially at night when the environmental temperature finally drops, even if only by a few degrees. And around 2 million years ago, a variant in the MC1R gene spread across human populations, promoting darker, melanin-rich skin. That can only mean one thing. The body was already largely hairless, and it needed protection from ultraviolet radiation. Nakedness came first. And that nakedness did not just help them hunt under the midday sun. It helped them release heat into the darkness every night, turning their own bodies into the first cooling system humans ever possessed. But the body can only do so much. If the air around you is as hot as your skin, there is nowhere for the heat to go. You sweat, but you do not cool down. You lie still, but you cannot sleep. This was the problem that haunted human ancestors living in hot climates for thousands of generations. And this is why they did not simply endure the heat. They found ways to defeat it. The oldest evidence of that effort was found inside Border Cave, a rock shelter in the Labo Mountains on the border of South Africa and Eswatini. In 2020, archaeologist Lynn Wadley of the University of the Witwatersrand published an important study in the journal Science about grass bedding, dated to approximately 200,000 years ago. This is the oldest known sleeping construction ever recorded on Earth. Those beds were made from broadleaf grasses laid over a layer of ash. Not dirt, not sand, ash. Ash from old bedding that had been burned, deliberately maintained, and relayed over generations. The ash served two purposes at once. It created a dry, insulating layer between the sleeper and the ground, which was still radiating the day's heat. And it dehydrated insects, ticks, lice, and anything else that crawled into the grass by clogging their breathing openings. Mixed into the grass were also traces of camphor bush, a plant still used in Africa today as a natural airborne insect repellent. These were not random arrangements. This was medicine. And here is the important part that most of us fail to realize. The real enemy was not the hot air. The enemy was the ground. Rock and compacted earth absorbed solar radiation throughout the day. After sunset, they released that heat slowly, like a hot pan just taken off the stove. If you have ever walked barefoot on asphalt at dusk, you know the feeling. The pavement remains hot for hours after the sun has disappeared. Your ancestors could not escape that reservoir of heat. but they could separate themselves from it. A hand-thick layer of grass, laid over ash, created a pocket of air between the body and the heat-radiating ground. Air is a poor conductor of heat. That pocket worked exactly like modern insulation works. Not by creating coolness, but by blocking heat transfer. 200,000 years ago, inside a cave in southern Africa, someone figured that out. We do not know their name. We never will. But they invented the bed. And the bed was a thermal tool. Even so, even with grass and ash bedding, even with bare skin that was highly efficient at radiating heat, there were still nights when the heat won. And that was when your ancestors turned to the most powerful technology they had: time. In 2015, researcher Gandhi Yetish, together with neuroscientist Jerome Siegel at UCLA, tracked the sleep habits of 3 modern hunter-gatherer groups whose lifestyles most closely resembled ancestral conditions: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, the Tsimane of Bolivia. The results completely overturned the modern assumption about how our ancestors slept. They did not sleep from sunset to sunrise. Their average sleep duration was only 6.4 hours per night. That is less than most people in industrialized countries. And the time they fell asleep did not depend on darkness. It depended on temperature. Across all 3 groups, people fell asleep as the ambient temperature was falling and woke near the coldest point of the night, usually just before dawn. They were not sleeping through the darkness. They were sleeping through the cold. In summer, when temperatures remained high until late in the evening, sleep began later and lasted nearly an hour less than in winter. Their bodies were waiting for the air to allow it. When the temperature finally dropped enough for core cooling to begin, sleep arrived. Not a second earlier. But if hot nights caused them to sleep less, did that create a problem? They still needed recovery. They still needed deep sleep to consolidate memories and repair the nervous system. So how did they get enough sleep? The answer is that they almost certainly did not sleep in one long, uninterrupted block the way you think. Historian A. Roger Eckerch at Virginia Tech spent 16 years combing through hundreds of pre-industrial European documents and found more than 500 references to the concept of first sleep and second sleep, 2 separate periods of sleep, each lasting around 4 hours, separated by a period of wakefulness in the middle of the night, lasting 1 to 2 hours. This was not insomnia. This was the human default. People woke between the 2 sleeps. They added wood to the fire. They talked quietly. Sometimes they visited their neighbors. Then they returned to their second sleep and slept until morning. In hot climates, this segmented sleep pattern would have been even more pronounced. The first sleep might come late in the evening as temperatures began to fall. The waking period in the middle of the night might coincide with the deepest hours of the night, the coolest period, when you could drink water, move to a better sleeping spot, or simply lie still and let your skin radiate heat into the night air. Then the second sleep carried you all the way to dawn. And they did not do all of this alone. In 2017, anthropologist David Sampson at the University of Toronto studied the Hadza and discovered something remarkable. Over 20 days of continuous monitoring with wrist-worn motion tracking devices, there were only 18 total minutes when the entire group was asleep at the same time. 18 minutes in 20 nights. At any given moment during the darkness, an average of 8 people were awake. This distribution was not random. It was driven by differences in chronotype, the natural tendency of each person to sleep earlier or later. Older Hadza tended to sleep and wake up earliest. Younger members stayed awake later. The result was a continuous wave of wakefulness covering nearly every minute of the night. Sampson called this the grandmother insomnia hypothesis. Your grandmother's insomnia is not a disorder. It is a 2-million-year-old security system. This means that heat did not only change when your ancestors slept, it changed how they slept and who was asleep at any given moment. The group functioned like a single organism, alternating between rest and alertness, never completely unconscious, never completely vulnerable. The person who woke up at 2 in the morning, drenched in sweat, was not failing at sleep. They were succeeding at survival. They were alert during the most vulnerable hours, able to watch for predators, keep the fire burning, and check on a child. The heat that woke them was, in a strange way, keeping them alive. And as human civilizations became more complex, the built environment began responding to the heat in ways that we have almost forgotten. The Sumerians of ancient Mesopotamia, the world's first city builders, Around 5,000 years ago, in what is now Iraq, designed homes with flat roofs and open courtyards specifically because summer nights indoors were unbearable. Families cooked on the rooftops. They ate dinner on the rooftops. And they slept on the rooftops, completely exposed to the night sky. This was not desperation. This was physics. A clear night sky acts like an enormous heat sink. The ground and everything on it radiate infrared energy upward into space. Without walls and ceilings to trap that radiation, exposed surfaces can cool several degrees below the surrounding air temperature. The Sumerians did not know the term radiative cooling, but they knew that sleeping beneath the open sky was cooler than sleeping beneath a roof, and they built entire architectural traditions around that knowledge. The Egyptians took it one step further. In ancient Thebes, where summer temperatures often exceeded 43 degrees Celsius, people slept on rooftops with wet reed mats hung across windows and entrances below, cooling any air that moved through the house. They placed water-filled clay pots on the floor, primitive evaporative coolers. The ancient Persian city of Yazd, now in Iran, developed the Badger, or wind-catcher tower, some dating back more than 1,000 years, which drew moving air from outside down into living spaces and could lower interior temperatures by as much as 12 degrees Celsius. These were not luxuries. These were sleep technologies, designed by people who understood that if you cannot cool the body, you cool the air around it. If you cannot cool the air, you move the body to where the air is already cool. Now step back. Look at the whole picture. Your ancestors faced an engineering problem every night that would leave most modern people helpless if you took away their electricity. A body that needs to cool down in order to begin sleeping, trapped in an environment that refuses to cool down, and they solved it at every level. They solved it through biology, shedding body hair, multiplying sweat glands, and turning bare skin into a heat-radiating surface that evolution perfected over 2 million years. They solved it through materials, laying down grass and ash to separate the body from the thermal mass of the ground. They solved it through time, adjusting sleep to the temperature curve, dividing rest into multiple periods, and allowing the coldest hours of the night to do what no technology could do. They solved it through community, distributing wakefulness throughout the group so that no one slept too deeply in the dangerous darkness. And they solved it through architecture, moving sleeping bodies closer to the open sky, channeling wind through towers, and hanging wet reed mats across entrances. Every one of those solutions still exists inside you. Your body still lowers its core temperature before sleep. Your hands and feet still flush with blood to release heat. This mechanism was documented by researchers at the University of Basel, who found that the rate of distal vasodilation, meaning warm hands and feet, is the strongest predictor of how quickly you fall asleep. You are still a tropical primate beneath the air conditioner, the memory foam mattress, and the climate control system. Your ancestors solved the problem of hot nights so thoroughly that you forgot it was ever a problem. Tonight, you will climb into bed. The air will be cool. The sheets will be smooth. You will barely notice. But somewhere deep within the architecture of your sleep, in the way your body temperature falls, in the way blood flows toward your skin, and in the way you wake up at 3 in the morning without knowing why, 200,000 years of restless, sweating, ingenious ancestors are still lying awake beside you. They never had a perfect night's sleep. They simply made sure that you could.